I hope that now you have idea around client-server architecture, static dynamic websites. So just a quick recap of what we have learned so far. Server, client, two entities involved. Server requests for information, client requests for information, server returns with a response. Now, if the response that server is returning is same for all users, it is not user specific, then we generally say that the website is static. If the response is user specific and smart enough to figure out that, okay, this is the content that I should show to user 1. For example, if you are sitting in India and you use google.com, then the search results will be relevant to your location, whereas if you are in different some other part of the world, then the search results will be localized, more relevant to the location that you are in, right? In case you are not signed in, and it decides and it figures out on the basis of the location that you are in. So that means the response is specific to user. So if that's the case, we say that the website is dynamic, right? So this was client-server architecture discussed so far. Now let's discuss in detail what happens when you actually visit a link or enter the URL in browser. So what is the process? We have discussed it abstractly at a very abstract level, that browser will contact relevant server, server will come with response, but the actual process involved actually has many steps in it. So let's discuss those steps now. Now for that, let's pick examples of different websites or different servers. Let's say there is google.com that you want to open, facebook.com. Then there will be a server for Facebook that you will have to contact for Facebook information. And if you want to open Coding Ninja's website, you will have to contact Coding Ninja's server for this, Quora, and Twitter, and so on, right? So there are multiple servers, or I should say billions of devices connected to internet. So if I want information from one particular device, then I should actually be able to identify that particular device amongst all. So that means there are multiple devices, but if I want to contact a particular device, I should have a unique or some identifier of that device, and that device actually is the IP address. So all the devices connected to internet have a unique identifier or unique address, that is the IP address. So if you want to contact a server, you want to connect to a device, then you should know the IP address. But we generally don't type in the IP address, right? So if I want to contact Google server, all I'll do is type google.com, right? So I'll type google.com, that's the domain name, google.com is domain name, codingninjas.in is the domain name. So these are domain names. So what I'll do is I'll just enter the URL, and I would want that it should contact the relevant Google server. For now, I have just symbolized that there is one Google server. Actually, there are multiple Google servers, but for now, let's just picture one Google server. So what ideally we would want is, if I want to open Google, I'll connect with the Google server and get that response. Now, in order to get that response, I should know the IP address of the Google server, right? Now, how will you get that IP address? So to get that IP address, this is where DNS actually comes into picture. So what is DNS? DNS is domain name system. IP addresses are unique identifiers to the devices connected to internet, because if you want to reach out to a particular device, you should have a unique identifier. So that means all the devices have IP address. It's hard to remember IP addresses, which is why we have domain names. Remembering google.com is pretty easy, right? Remembering the IP address. So if it is IPv4 address, generally it's a 32-bit address, 4 bytes, 192, let's say, dot something, dot something, dot something. So the address goes like this. It's pretty hard to remember an address like this. So we generally don't. What we generally do is, we contact DNS for this. So the flow, how it goes is, let's say I have entered the URL here, google.com. Right? So in the browser, now what browser will do is, browser will contact ISP, internet serving provider, the connection, the ones providing you connection, be it an Airtel connection, Vodafone connection. So it will contact your ISP that this is the domain name and I want the IP address for this domain name. Now this ISP will actually conduct a DNS search, domain name search, to get me the desired IP address. So this is ISP, where this is where ISP comes into picture, and ISP returns the relevant IP address. Now that I have this IP address, I can straight away contact the server and establish a connection with the Google server for further communication. So these are the steps. Just to summarize the steps, you enter URL, right? Now you have entered the domain name, you would want the exact IP address. So browser generally try caching commonly searched URLs and their IP addresses. In case browser has not stored that IP address, browser will contact ISP, Internet Service Provider, to get the desired IP address. Internet Service Provider, if it has not cached the information, it will conduct a domain name search. Now from this domain name search, it will get an address which it will give the browser. So ISP returns address to the browser, and the browser then contacts and connects the server, connects with the server. So this is how things work. So the connection is then established, and this is the communication step work. This is the communication flow that takes place, right? So I hope this idea is clear. I hope the terms used, client, server, ISP, DNS, are clear to you. I actually have touched these topics abstractly. I have not actually dived deeper into how DNS is searching in itself. So you guys are free to read more and explore about them. Thank you.